Okay, so we were going to discuss the various types of support.
Types of support. So the idea here is to at least have a sensible set of default types of activities an open source project might want to come in a position to ask for assistance with. Of course, you could ask for anything, and there's always the way. You've always the option to ask somebody who's already contributing, can you help with this? But the idea here is to have at least a way, a chance to reach the users that aren't actively participating in the work around a project. And give them the opportunity to step up and contribute for the first time, perhaps, or come out of the woodwork. And my hope with the offering a list like this is to just make it a little bit easier, both for projects themselves and the maintainers to get an idea of what might be useful. And of course, I'm hoping this can be reflected in experiences from other projects that have tried to do stuff like that. And also to signal to the users out there that for some reason want to explore the metadata they have available or the statuses of the projects, what kind of things that are like what complexities does an open source project actually think about and might be caring about. It's not just somebody who produces code out of a black box and something just to be used. There's a process around it, and somebody has to actually care and motivate each other and all that stuff. And a really good way of helping people get motivated is to care about the same thing that they care about and contribute. So I'd like to open that door and see if we can find a way to do that. So
Okay.
In that sense, last meeting, I would just barely touch upon a list of types of contributions, non-funding support examples. This is a brain dump gathered over time, and it has been refined using the CHAOSS, CHAOSS project's list of contribution types. Luckily, there has been other communities out there that have thoughts in the same direction, but the CHAOSS community mostly concerns itself from a user's perspective. They care about metrics and aren't focused directly on a single project's health in a sense. But they do care what's needed out there and what makes the projects in general healthy. So they have made a list of things, of ways to of types of activities that they find is worth acknowledging. Like if somebody offers to help with some creative work and design of something, for example, that's not something that usually shows up in the regular metrics, like number of issues solved or commits per user or pull requests answered or whatever. So there's some really useful stuff that have been shown from these guys, and included into the list in Appendix 1 in our sustainability in use cases and requirements document. So if since it's just the two of us today, we'll see if somebody shows up. And since it's, well, we're recording, so maybe if somebody watches the recording and finds out that there is something missing or useful, then they can always get in touch with us, or even maybe, I don't know, is it usual that people comment in on the YouTube channel?
We don't get a lot of comments. People primarily come to the Slack.
Yeah,
primarily.
so finding the Slack and reaching out, that's a good way to help make sure that this list becomes well, realistic before we're done. So if this inspires some thought to then among those of you watching the video, I see there's at least a couple ones out there that watch the videos. That's good, and but please speak up. This is like trying to help communities out there, yeah. Let's just get into it.
So do we want to share the chaos page? You want me to share that?
Sure. It is already in the references and source materials section under the heading Chaos 2020.
Okay, I thought you were going to want to go through it.
Well, yeah, you can share the screen of the Appendix 1 in the page if you would like to share the screen.
Yeah, there's actually, I find a number of issues with their list, by the way.
Well, we can, let's explore it.
All right. So let's see if we go to their list.
Yeah. All the stuff in their list has been already incorporated into our list. So in a sense, we can just use our list and then address any issues we have with their list there, and then get it incorporated immediately, if that's okay with you.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure I've been got some signals that they are interested in feedback on their list at some point. So if we just share it here, our thoughts and ideas and what we feel is missing or could we improve, that could be a contribution to their work at some point. But we're doing this independently, and what I've been doing is liberally stealing in the West open source sense.
Got it. In the open source sense, yes.
Yeah, that's why we put the license on the documents and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, so let's see. Writing code, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Reviewing code, that really depends. If you only are looking at it from a developer's perspective, you're going to
let's look at the Appendix 1 page instead, because I have it alphabetized there, and the same ones, exactly the same ones in the chaos document that you just looked at.
Okay.
They are listed there further down after the. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't scroll far.
There we have it. In the stuff in bold is the stuff that you just saw in the chaos's document just a moment ago.
I see. The stuff in bold is chaos. The other stuff is not. Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so I have taken all my notes and just taken the stuff that corresponds to what they have written and just made it bold here and rewritten it so it uses their wording. So then earlier in my own notes that is also referenced up in earlier, you can see in the Git log there exactly the history of what changes. But what we see here is is close is what we have. It's already to some sense refined. So if you, for example, look at code review, that would include security reviews, or if somebody would do a maintainability review. Like, is this code easy to get into? Do you follow common customs and how to write code? Like, are you using the KNR style or some other way of formatting things, or do the naming of variables and classes and whatever make sense? Is the all that stuff, getting feedback is of that kind can be super useful. And of course, if somebody wants to have a review of if the development process makes sense, I don't know if that's a thing out there, but I have sometimes wanted stuff like that. Like, do we need this step where we ask for feedback before merging pull request, for example?
Yeah, so I think my biggest issue with the chaos list specifically is
Yeah,
that they seem to have been very granular with like writing code, reviewing code, bug triaging, QA, and then they
yeah,
were granular on some of their outreach and communication, like social media and
yeah,
writing articles and public relations. And they basically grouped all the security activities like in one big blob. Um,
right.
and that's why didn't they group all the development activities in one big blob? I don't know. Um, there's also like a glaring omission here.
Right.
Um, something actually, a project doesn't start with just code. It starts with a design, like pretty much everything.
Yeah.
And secure design, secure by default, is actually a requirement of the CRA. And they're not actually capturing any design time activities other than creative design in their list, which I find interesting.
Yeah, that's that's an interesting point you are raising here, actually. But there's a bootstrapping problem because that would assume you have you're on a planning stage at the project where you need that kind of feedback and a way to communicate it to any future users.
Hmm.
So how would that happen?
Well, it doesn't have to be necessarily on a brand new project. Like one of my own projects, for example, Dependency Track, which has been around for 11 years now.
Yeah,
It's going under a complete re-architecture. It was designed at a point when S-bombs really weren't the thing. Now they
right.
are, and now people want millions of them. So it's taking a lot of design time activities, and we probably spent, upwards of 6, 8 months just on design.
That's a
Um,
very good point. Let's just add that because this is you have pointed out a blind spot, a clear blind spot for me. Let's see if we can make something. Systems design, architectural design. What would you call this type of activity
well, I
if you would
would,
ask for it?
I would break it personally. I would break it up into three different sections. Um, assuming, well,
So then under the heading of code review or code
no, I would,
writing,
I would, I would write it in terms of like, um,
systems design.
software and system design. That would be one. Um, Another
Yeah.
one would be design review and threat modeling.
Design security review and security and threat modeling review. Is that what you mean, or
Well, no, it's
you?
not just
Yeah,
it's not just security though. It's more just basic design review. So reviewing existing designs and threat modeling, which theoretically could be safety, security, or privacy threat modeling. Which again, their
right.
list, they omitted privacy related activities, um, and safety related activities as well.
And when you said design review, how can we distinguish this from things that are of the creative type of design? Like,
Yeah,
it's
they've got user interface, user experience, and accessibility, and they also have creative work and design
yeah,
as
yeah.
which
But those are different. Uh,
those are very
um,
different than like software design, software
yeah,
architecture.
and they also, between those two, they are different activities. So, uh, um, what would a design review look like?
Um, well, a lot of
So, a
times
software.
yeah, a lot of times a design review is just going to be looking at um, does a design does a design proposal, is it going to meet the requirements of where that software is going to be used? And in some cases, it might incorporate a very light touch type of threat model. It's not going to be a full blown threat model by any means, but it's going to point out some things that might actually go wrong with a given design, versus a threat model, which will, it's much more type of specialized thing. It goes pretty deep, um, and you can look at it from a threat model. You can look at it from an infrastructure perspective. You can look at it from an asset perspective. Security, privacy, safety. Um,
Yeah.
so it's much more verbose than a design review.
What type of design? I'm asking. Maybe I'm asking the same question in two different ways now, and that's to see if I can cajole more aspects out of this, so I can connect it with my brain,
Hmm.
my mental model. Because when you said design review, it specific when we're talking about software design or
Yeah,
systems design. Um,
both.
there's,
Yeah.
there's a lot to that topic. It could be anything from designing data structures and classes and
Mhm.
relations in the databases and APIs, and even the choice of implementation language and what libraries you depend on will influence what you can do with a design, or how easy it is to
Right.
express the problem domain, and some solutions to it in code. So
Yeah, theoretically, design review could be its own category if we want to enumerate all those different possibilities. The other option here is to, while we are enumerating a lot of these things, realistically, we're going to end up with, 100 or more different concrete things. From a UX perspective, is that useful? Or do we keep it simple and target the higher level categories?
that's a good question. I'm
And we
looking
can do
for
both.
I'm looking for a sweet spot, and right now I've just by just to try it out, I've tried to split it up in two levels, like an overarching topics, and then examples of typical subtopics. Uh, um, and I think a way to um, get a sensible overview of this without being overwhelmed, I think having 2 levels is a good way of doing it. Though with it, like as with any like when designing or when writing something, you don't want to have it too massive, and it's almost like a code smell if you have one list that is way too long compared to, and the rest are just tiny lists. That means you haven't picked the right abstractions, or you need to split up something. So, but in order to discover if we have picked the right abstractions, we kind of have to get an idea of what we mean with each of them, and also expand the topics as much as we can, so we can whittle it down afterwards, or figure out if there's something which is covered by a more general term, for example. So when we talk about systems design, and we need also verbs, like a design review, but it could be any kind of design, and we have already talked about a bunch of them. Maybe if we could find, like, could you, okay, let's see if we can make this happen. When you really want a review of our design, we need to be at least a little bit more precise. What kind of review?
Yes.
And that's our goal here. List the kinds of reviews of a software or systems design that we would be interested in asking for.
Sure. Yeah, I can see design review being a category, and within that category,
a separate category on the same level as system and design review, or are you just, when you say design review, you mean software and systems design review?
Right. Yeah, just the top level category here. Yeah.
Yeah. If you scroll down on the page, and maybe could you increase the size a little bit? I'm writing on point 17 here. A bit up.
Okay, software and system design. Got it. Okay.
But what does that mean? Like, because this.
Well, I think we can break it down into a couple different
please take the keyboard if you want to.
Things. I'm just kind of thinking out loud here. Software architectural design patterns.
Review. Put a verb in there, please. What action
what we're
are
going
you
to
looking
do? Action. Okay.
Yeah. I need help with action, activity. That's
okay, so review. Okay, review.
infrastructure design.
Yeah, I mean, an OSS project might actually stand up infrastructure to help support that project. We've got let's see.
So data structures, data.
Right.
I'm not familiar with MITRE ATT&CK. I have seen the word for it before. Data modeling.
Yeah.
Let's not say UML, please, because that's a product.
Yeah, that's true.
And but class design or like there's so many ways of doing things, and like in the Perl and Raku world, kind of it's a multi-paradigm language, so both do it functionally if the problem calls for functional programming, or object oriented, or just plain old procedural.
Yeah, I mean I think that's going to be covered up here though too. So
yeah, that's a good point.
API modeling, data modeling.
Let's see. We look at the security at rest and in movement. We are looking at safety and privacy, at how to communicate through public interfaces, how to take care of the data that used before when storing or managing those. Could you please expand a little bit on what you mean with infrastructure design? Is it like they're thinking of like microservices and how you, or are you
Potentially, yeah.
talking, or are you looking more at what kind of hardware you should depend on, or what do you mean?
No, I wasn't thinking hardware, but that's a good point. Maybe we should be more specific. Inf We could say virtualized infrastructure design patterns. That way we're tightly scoped to things like Docker, Kubernetes, AWS, microservices, that sort of thing.
Okay. Yeah, so if the application that's being published has the right abstractions in place, so you can depend on whatever virtualized infrastructure.
Yeah, and in some cases, you might actually have an OSS project that phones home, maybe collecting metrics for usage or whatever, or to support the community in some way, right? So it might not necessarily be a review of that particular thing. It might actually be a review of a thing that supports the community of people who use that thing.
Dependency review.
Yes.
That's not something, that's not a thing as far as I know, but I think that's something that might become a thing.
We could theoretically, they have legal counsel, like Chaos had one line item for that. We could theoretically break that down into the different reviews as well. I mean, we could have, we could have a dependency review from a security license and intellectual property perspective.
Well, this also from a software systems design perspective. Just say, for example, to check if the modules you depend on or the libraries you depend on are being maintained,
right?
Or
exactly.
if there's some unwanted drama going on that you want to opt out of by just removing a dependency and then just implementing it that function you need yourself.
Let's dog food ourselves. So let's let's do dependency sustainability review.
Yeah, why not? Well, it doesn't have to be sustainability. It could be any kind of review of dependencies. I don't know the culture of dependencies on different ecosystems, but I'm hearing that if you buy into the NPM node ecosystem, you are getting a lot of dependencies, and that's a situation that might actually need a review now and then.
Yeah, it's funny. Different ecosystems have very different cultures. NPM, the culture there is micro modules. So small little modules that do very specific things. And as a result, you basically end up with piles of dependencies, right? It's not uncommon to have an application with 10,000 or more dependencies. And then you got ecosystems like Go, which they have a culture of just minimizing everything to the extent where they're trying to use as little as no dependencies as humanly possible. And all the other ecosystems just kind of fall in the middle somewhere.
Yeah. So okay, but let's split that one up. Dependency and sustainability review, because dependency review there's a lot different types of the thing you might review there, and oh no, I was actually okay with having it under systems design.
Oh, okay.
Just
all right.
to remove sustainability from that.
Okay, got it.
But yeah, sustainability review, that's something I guess some businesses might eventually get into, like if they have an OSPO and they want to see like if their dependencies that they use in their products.
Yeah, I mean, there's a
Have
few
a
commercial companies that are kind of going down this route. I'm not endorsing any one, but I know Tidelift has a lot of this data.
yeah.
And they're kind of going down this route, which is amazing. There are others. But yeah, sustainability is going to be, do we want to have that as a separate line item? Sustainability
So
review?
the question is, can we imagine a project asking for help from an outsider to figure out if all the project's dependencies and the project itself seems sustainable?
Um,
I'd say, like, from a pure like getting like a touching base type of, I don't know the English idiom for that, figuring out the reality of the landscape from that perspective. If you want to know what people think of this project, then this is a type of data point which is actually useful. It may be not improving the source code, but it's definitely something that can help point out weaknesses in how the project might be run, or point out. I'm right now I'm kind of thinking aloud, but I'm leaning toward having a sustainability review. Maybe is a good thing, actually.
yeah, I think so. Now, is this the sustainability of the project itself, or is this the sustainability of the dependencies of that project? Or both?
Or both. Yeah, why not both? Yeah.
Okay.
By the way, could you just very quickly say something about MITRE ATT&CK?
Oh, it's just that's also another product. So maybe we should generalize that. MITRE ATT&CK is just basically a taxonomy of different types of attack patterns. And if you know what the different attack patterns are, then you can help to didn't you know essentially what kind of controls you might need to put in your application to protect against those types of
Okay,
attacks?
so it's okay. That's basically a checklist when doing analysis of a system or to see what we need to protect against.
Yeah, and theoretically, as part of threat modeling, MITRE
Right.
ATT&CK might, in some cases, actually be covered. So let's just remove it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. That sounds fair. Final call for point 17 here. Could we only have like a short while left. Could we take a little bit of a look at the others here to just go quickly through them? Okay, project branding. So I'm trying to figure out what I'm looking for here at point 1 and downwards are there some concepts here that are redundant or unnecessary that we can just merge or remove?
Yeah, I think brand development, brand strategy, brand management, implementation.
Like I would say implementation is part of the activity somebody who does brand management does.
Yeah.
So maybe that, but then again, you want maybe help with actually doing things and not managing. You don't need another manager. You need somebody who can actually go out there and do what's necessary to get the brand message or brand out there, well known.
Right.
I would, I'm thinking strategy and development is, you develop a strategy. So a strategy could go out.
I would actually combine it with development. I would make it one thing.
Strategy and development and strategy, or strategy and development.
Either, yeah. Yeah.
Management. What would the difference be between management and implementation? Should they be merged?
That is a great question.
I think they can be merged.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any objection to that. So,
sweet. All right. Anything else around branding? It's branding is a little bit related to outreach. Point 14.
It is now,
but it's like a system and a big plan around whatever outreach is. So it's more ambitious than outreach. Outreach would be just talking with people and being. It's like the difference between sales and marketing, maybe.
right. Yeah, as part of, let's see. Okay, yeah, as part of brand development, you're going to have things like your style guide, voice and tone.
Yeah.
A few other things.
What kind of values do you want to communicate to others, to your audience? Does it
Yeah.
matter, and whether or not it resonates? Picking a
Okay. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense for branding. I mean, I can have my wife look that part over actually, because literally that's what she does.
right. Oh,
So I can have her take a look at that and provide some
just,
input.
it's okay to add comments.
Yeah.
Just mark it some field and click the add comment icon. Okay, so bug triage. It's at the moment it is its own heading, because I'm thinking this is something that should be under software development,
Yeah. Same.
coding, coding, writing and development. So let's just do that. All right. Code review. The idea here with having some help with review instead of a separate attack activity than writing is with the idea that the project can like makes sense when a new person enters and takes a fresh look at the software or the way they work, or if it makes sense. Now the thing with open source, it's out there for review for anybody anyway, so maybe it's unnecessary to ask for that explicitly, or like if it's there, then it's always asked for. So it's in a sense pointless to ask for it. Like, no, I don't want you to review this. That's if somebody says you can contribute, but you're not. But the reviewing doesn't make sense. I'm unsure about this. I'm thinking the idea of code review is implied in almost any activity that involves coding. But then there is something around specifically looking at security, like from a security perspective. Is this code secure? Is this code maintainable? Meaning, is the cost of entry for a new contributor too low enough? Do you have, for example, low-hanging fruits or easy tasks to use? Yeah, and are those tasks easy for a newcomer? Actually easy, meaning they can quickly by themselves figure out where in the code this trivial feature can be implemented, for example. So I'm very split on whether or not code review is necessary or not, or because I have a bunch of examples. Well, I have at least those 3 examples that are sub-points for code review. Maybe the code review, the sub-examples could be merged into another point. Unsure.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about having maybe just a top level category for development and code review could be like a sub item of that actually. Because I mean just checking like, you know, looking at all the PRs, for example.
Yeah,
I
but
mean, that's part of
this
development.
yeah, that in that sense, code review, pull request review is its own point as part of development. But where would we put where we would add the three next points? Because they are a type of review that I think are worth explicitly having separate.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it does belong in its own thing.
Coding practices, no.
Coming up with nouns is hard. You know what's not on here too that we probably, and I don't know, we should probably just add it though and figure out where it belongs later.
Yeah,
Is there's a big difference between writing code and either writing or configuring CI/CD processes. That should probably be its own bullet point. I've seen some very elaborate GitHub actions and some other stuff that,
yeah. I
yeah.
have actually something around that already.
Do you?
I thought I had it.
Packaging, software,
Like,
running, automated security test.
yeah, isn't that? Yeah, test infrastructure CI/CD hosting. That's under technical infrastructure and hosting at 20 at the moment.
Oh, okay. All right.
But that's the hosting. Like an example I'm using there is well, it's strictly not CI/CD, but in the one of the really awesome features of the CPAN community is that we have something called CPAN testers. That's a volunteer project where a bunch of people who have access to a whole lot of different platforms, different OSs, different architectures. And when somebody publishes something on CPAN, they run the test suite on that library, on that the CPAN distribution on each of those, and then creates a report. These are the tests that failed on each system, on each OS and architecture, and these are the ones that succeeded. So you get a huge matrix of successes and failures, so you can see that your distribution is actually your CPAN package is actually functions on the different platforms that Perl is already supposed to. That's the Perl language supports like 20 different architectures or something. You can run it on old HP UX machines and IBM mainframes, and it's insane. Like there's the amount of work put into the legacy stuff, meaning like systems that earn money right now today. That it's incredible. So having a common testing infrastructure like that has been like a. I'm not religious, so I'll say it anyway. It's almost like a godsend. It's been so nice. And I wish other communities had something that awesome.
Yeah.
But putting together something, maybe that's too ambitious. That line in point 20, test infrastructure posting. Hi, could you make this awesome, huge, incredibly complex things for me? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
This is not for drive-by contributors.
Right. Yeah, there's very few. I know a few others that have some really robust infrastructure that does
Yeah.
essentially what you would describe. But yeah, the overwhelming majority it's kind of a pipe dream, you know.
Yeah. But your point is still valid. And if we look at the development heading, which would be code writing and development.
Right.
CI/CD configuration.
Right.
That is worth it, because the other thing talks about something way more ambitious.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Thank
All
you.
right.
That's a good
Good.
addition. Should we take one more point so we at least can say we got some progress in here? Code write, like we said, code review, secure code review. That's the term that is used in the security world.
Yep.
Awesome. So sweet. Any other types of review that would be useful? Because we are already talking about systems and design review, but I'm thinking more when doing code review.
Yeah, that's more the implementation, right? So the one is about design, the other one is about the implementation.
Right. So code review, parenthesis, implementation then. Oh, that's not necessary to write, maybe. Okay. Is there any other types of code-related reviews that are common that we? I think we covered quite a few of those.
Yeah.
So let's move
yeah,
on.
I'm exhausted on that one.
Yeah. All right. Code development, talking about internationalization and localization. Well, the internationalization is part of the code writing bits to make it possible to localize.
Right. They actually had IATN on the chaos list too, by the way. Oh, you have it down
Yes.
here as well. Documentation
Yes.
under documentation. Oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
So
So this I've split it in two because anybody can localize. Then that requires language knowledge. But if you want to make it possible to localize, you need to first internationalize.
right.
You make use of some library, for example, that lets you write symbols or error messages or specific output for your user, different user interface languages, and so
Got
that
it.
it makes sense. So the base infrastructure for being able to express the output in different languages is written under that heading.
Yep.
Okay, new features. Could you help me with a feature? Sure. That means that's an open door to write cool stuff. Bug triage, CI/CD configuration. I think test writing should be in there also.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Testing is code. Tests are also code, and they require quite a bit of thought usually.
Yeah.
But having some assistance with that would be awesome. We can move on. Let's see. No, it's actually we're on time. So let's say we managed to come to this point here.
Yeah, I think that's good.
And then I'm going to add a smiley here that goes. Let's see if we can find the.
As an indication of where to start next time, huh?
Yes, I'm looking for hands and finger symbols, but apparently I have to just be happy with an arrow like this.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Is there
Yeah,
anything
thank you.
else?
Nope. I will publish the video up on YouTube later today.
Yeah, and if there's somebody actually watches this, hey, reach out. This is a public conversation. So, but the conversations need more people conversing. So
That they do.
yeah, all
All right.
right.
Cheers.
Bye bye. Cheers.